Tic Tac wasn't big enough to hold me. And their algorithms suck ass. Yeah, I can say that without being kicked off, but if I use the R word, I get kicked off instantly for hate speech. There should be a rule about that. If you can prove that you were ever diagnosed as being the R word, you should be able to use it freely. Just a thought. I was in the ER program when I was in the LA Unified School District? No, it was Atascadero School District in Central California. So in the LA Unified, I was in the MGM program, which is Mentally Gifted Minors. It's a special program for genius kids. Yeah, I was 4th and 5th grade. By 9th grade, I was in the ER, which is educably you know the rest. I can't get kicked off of Tic Tac again. Yeah. Apparently, different school districts valued my intellect in very different ways. So, yeah, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I think that is about all I can say about that. Okay. Silver's up. What? No, it's not. It wasn't. Whatever. Silliness. All right, let's go to the watch list. But first, let's find out what's going on in the world that we need to know about. Mitch McConnell. You know, Elaine Chao, Mitch McConnell's wife. A lot of people don't know this about her. She's an interesting woman. Her family is one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest family in the shipping business in China, and has deep ties with the Chinese Communist Party. So when I found out that Mitch McConnell was not only married to this communist, the Republican majority speaker, not only was I shocked to find that out, but then when I found out that she was also Trump's Secretary of Transportation first go around, I thought, there's just no way. Like, this is impossible. You can't have something so completely, purely, obviously corrupt. Like, how could anybody get away with that? But they did. So anyway, Mitch McConnell is on his way out the door. Thank you, Jesus. It's about fucking time. Caffeine. Nectar of the gods. So Mitch McConnell is finally heading downstairs to go hang out with Henry Kissinger and Feinstein and all the rest of those demons. You know, it would have been nice if the people around him had been a little bit more honest 3, 4, 5 years ago when he started freezing up and collapsing in public. And they just said, look, this guy's not up for the job. But that wouldn't have worked, because then they couldn't have plotted and planned and triangulated the trajectory of the next guy that they're going to force into office. And of course, they're not going to let him just be dead, even though he probably is. Now, when I say that, and you go, wait, Mitch McConnell's not dead. They said he's recovering. Really? Do you really believe that? There's no way. There's zero chance in this universe that he's alive. Now, is there blood pumping through his dusty old veins? Don't know if it's his or somebody else's, doesn't really matter. Is there any brain activity? Do they have him on every machine possible to keep him alive? Absolutely. Why is that? Because if he dies, even though it's just going to be for a couple months, a special election has to be held to replace him. And who do you think in Kentucky would absolutely crush that election? Little common sense here. Charles, good evening. If you said Thomas Massie, yes, you're right. Thomas Massie could easily win and go from congressman to senator. Even if it's just for a short time, he would become a senator, at which point he could run for re-election. Well, once you're a senator, you're basically a senator for life. That's the way that the insanely low IQ American public votes. Luckily, those insanely low people are the same people that it's been homeless in a tent, proof on page. Yeah, go away. Oh, there's no question they're lying. That's what I had heard, but then there was a big dust up about the fact that they wouldn't be honest because clearly Massie would win a special election. Oh, that's right. They changed it from the governor can appoint because there was something about McConnell's health, and it was a Democratic governor, and they didn't want to take any chances that if McConnell dropped dead, that the governor could appoint a Democrat. So they changed the law in Kentucky a few years ago. I think it was in 90. Well, what was it? It was 6 years ago. So what was that? 2020? Yep. No, they didn't find him in a coma. That's the worst part. It would be totally acceptable if they found him and he was just unresponsive because he was taking a longer nap than usual. He had a heart attack. When you're at home and your heart stops, by the time EMS gets there and starts CPR, if you're 84 years old, you're gone. How fast could EMS possibly get there? Best case scenario. I go, ow, man, my chest hurts. You dial 911 right now. 5 minutes? With my pump just seized and I lay on the floor for 5 minutes without any oxygen going to my brain. Now, granted, I'm not human, really. I'm kind of superhuman. So I would probably get up and I'd be fine. I'd get you some scotch and we'd have a shot together and I'd thank you for restarting me. However, Mitch McConnell's 84 years old, and there hasn't been any testosterone in that man's veins since ever. So, Jorge, I'm sorry, baby. I know you're right, but we got more important things to talk about right now. That's literally their plan, is to just overload us with criminality so that we have to pick. And right now, the most important thing on my agenda is the fact that Israel is literally a couple weeks away from taking over the United States Central Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO, the NSA, the FBI, and all 17 other intelligence agencies, including becoming 100% integrated into America's defense forces. So basically, they would control our military. And when I say that, that sounds like hyperbole, bullshit, clickbait. It's not. That is absolutely what these fucking things say. She left to go to China because she could care less about that dolt. She married him because of appearances. And when he had a heart attack, she was like, okay, well, I still have to go meet with the vice president of China. And that's obviously more important than this turd. You have to understand, I've been around these power couples like this, and they are absolutely savage. I mean, in a way, you got to admire just how absolutely tough-minded and emotionless they are. They are, whew, they make Spock look like a sissy. Hegseth wouldn't let it happen. Is that a joke? I hope that's a joke. You don't know Pete Hegseth. You have no idea who you're referring to. That's scary. Dude, do you realize that that's the same Pete Hegseth that said that the birth of Israel was truly a miracle, and that 1967 was truly a miracle? And he believes that the third temple will be built on the site of the second temple, and it will truly be a miracle. But he doesn't see why that can't happen in his lifetime. He's got his head so far up Netanyahu's ass that he can literally use Netanyahu's belly button as a peephole. Pete Hegseth is owned completely by Israel. He doesn't have an original thought. Ben, come on. Grow up. Yeah, I'm fake news. Yeah, because you can see my multi-million-dollar studio here where I get paid to put out fake news. Native Americans for Trump. Well, now I know you're just trolling, because your IQ would have to be lower than the amount of fingers on my hand if you were a Native American that loved Trump. Did Pete Hegseth ever say that the birth of Israel was a miracle? Yes. Pete Hegseth explicitly referred to the birth of Israel as a miracle during a speech at a 2018 conference in Jerusalem hosted by Arut Shiva. Well, there, Ben. Oh, I don't know my facts. Well, gee whiz, I just pulled that off of a Jewish-owned website. Oh, yeah, you can't trust them to tell the truth about them. Democrat shit talkers. Who? Pete Hegseth? I think you're wrong there. Pretty sure he's not a Democrat. And I wouldn't normally say he's a shit talker either. that Israel can't defend themselves. No, they can't defend themselves. They're completely, hopelessly outnumbered. They've pissed off everybody in the world except the people that they brought in the United States. Without us, Israel doesn't exist. Literally, Trump said that 2 weeks ago, publicly. He said, if it weren't for us, Israel wouldn't exist. Did you not see that all over the news? Or did you think, oh, that's AI, bro? Dude, that's not real. He never said that, bro. We all saw it. That's the beautiful part. I'm lost in space. Oh, God. Well, that's the thing. We are spiritually supposed to support them. Yes, if you're Jewish, the Old Testament says support them. And if you're Christian, then you believe in Christ, which is a whole different deal, which is why Jews, especially Israelis, hate Christians. Hate them. Hate them. Native Americans support Israel. That's funny. I can't imagine why that would be. And what's wrong with them not existing, George? They didn't exist for 2,000 years. Who wrote the Old Testament? A bunch of troglodyte cavemen that didn't understand God. So they put in a bunch of laws about what you could eat and who you could screw on what days, and the fact that if your wife's coochie bleeds, she's got to go outside for 2 weeks. Can't let her in the house because, woo, that's weird shit right there. That doesn't make any sense to us. Like, what animal bleeds for 2 weeks and doesn't die? Yeah. When I look at Judaism from a completely rational, logical, scientific standpoint, it's shockingly stupid. It's shockingly barbaric. It's horrifically stupid. And when I say stupid, I mean stupid. Not like, oh, man, you just don't understand. Really? No. Yeah, well, satanic is one way of putting it. I mean, it's definitely Antichrist, obviously. What's your answer to $40 trillion in national debt? Stop spending money on wars that are irrelevant to us. Period. Okay? We've already spent, in the last 26 years, we've spent over $8 trillion. So imagine if we just back that off. No, that does not go for all religions. Bullshit. Bullshit. Tell me what Taoism says you have to be or they'll kill you. You tell me what Hindus tell others they have to do, say, or be, or they will be murdered. Tell me that. Tell me what Christianity tells the Jews and the Muslims they have to do, or we will murder all of them. Is there anything in the New Testament about who Christians must kill? No, not a word. So fuck off with your, oh, they're all the same. They're not all the same. Jesus didn't come to tell people who to murder. As a matter of fact, all he talked about was who to take care of, who to protect. I can't believe so many people are just so either blind or stupid, one or the other. I don't know which it is. Next move, revalue gold. Did you know that the United States government values gold at $42.20 an ounce? Right now, that is the statutory value of gold today. Now, that's obviously not what gold goes for. I mean, it's simple. It doesn't go for that. So let's say that we've revalued it, okay? And here's the thing. If you revalue the statutory value to, and by the way, it says in the Constitution that Congress can set any price they want. Any price they want. So let's say $20,000. I know that's a big jump. That's 5x. But let's say they said it's 20 grand an ounce. So what's that? Another 15 trillion disappeared right away. And now we've brought our national debt down to where instead of 130% or 123% of our GDP, which is completely unserviceable, and we're fucked. We're going away. Bye-bye. Just like Japan realized they're going to do today. When I say today, Japan realized today that they can't service their debt. That's it. The Ponzi scheme's up for them. The Ponzi scheme is over for them. And when I say that, go and do some research and you'll see that that's not hyperbole. They're fucked. They're in such deep trouble. And you have to understand, I don't necessarily agree with everything Japan does. And I know that they can be, when they decide that they don't like you, they can be rather barbaric. But having lived there, I also see that they are very polite, very kind, very structured, very honor-oriented, and I like the culture. I respect it. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't want to live there for the rest of my life. But I do respect their culture a tremendous amount. To see Japan and where they're at right now, I feel awful for them. I feel absolutely terrible for them. Because there's no way out of this except a depression for them. There's no way out of this except an absolute economic collapse and reset for them. They can't fix this. Oh, it's all over Japan. Mostly southern Japan. Here's the thing about where we're at. We could, if we did it right now, if we just stop wasting money, if we stop printing money, if we went on basically an economic diet, revalued gold, etc., we could survive this, but we won't. And the reason we won't is because nobody in Congress cares. They don't care. No. It's too late. They can't invade another country and save their economy that way, because in order to invade another country, you'd have to have a military. You have to understand that they've been hollowed out from the inside, just like the United States. There was a time when just the thought of going to war made every kid from the age of 12 to the age of 60 say, that's it, I'm going. If the United States needs me, by God, I'm going. Do you think that might happen with millennials or Generation Y or Generation Z or Gen Alpha? You think any of these people that have been born in the last, say, 35 years, now I get it. Is there 0.1% that are still good old fashioned? Like, man, they fucking grew up in the series Lassie. Yeah, they're just, it's like they are all American, Wyoming farm kids, and yeah, if the country called, by God, they'd go. Yes, there are some kids out there that grew up hunting, they grew up tough, they understand what it feels like to work hard. They actually have fucking calluses on their hands. I remember being a kid, and when my dad would introduce me to people, sometimes they'd shake my hand, and then they'd grab my hand and they'd turn it over and they'd look at it. They'd feel my hand, and they'd look at me and they'd smile and they'd go, "You got some calluses, kid." I go, "Yeah, shovel, pick, stuff like that." And you go, "All right, cool." It showed you could work. It showed that you were not some sissy. And by the way, if you were a full-grown man and you had nice baby soft hands, you know what that meant, right? That meant you were a liar, cheat, thief, and probably a gambler for a living. Nobody trusted a man with soft hands. And now the lack of calluses has gone all the way to people's heads. Soft hands, soft head. It's like, okay, well, that's not going to work really well. My point is this. Japan doesn't have the military might. The United States doesn't either. We had people freaking out over the, 60 days, 80 days, 90 days that Iran went on. Wait until it goes back. Wait until we go back. We will go back. There's no question we will go back. Oh Jesus, a weak handshake. That was actually literally my dad and I would joke about that. When I was a kid, I would shake my dad's hand, and he had hands that literally felt like they were made out of, I don't know, marble or something. And he would squeeze my hand, and I'd squeeze his hand as hard as I could. And he'd go, "All right, come on, give me a grip, kid." And I'd squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. And he'd just sit there and smile at me, go, "Oh, that's not bad. You know, not bad for kid." And then by the time I think I was probably 16. And one day he was talking, and it was just a thing, it was a macho thing. I said, "Really? I don't know. I'm calling bullshit." And he goes, "Really? You want to shake on it?" I was like, "All right, let's shake on it." Because I knew what that meant. That meant he was about to crush my hand. And I went, "All right, let's do it." And I grabbed his hand, and I started squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. And pretty soon, I actually felt a little give in his hand. I was like, holy shit. My hand's stronger than his. My grip is stronger than my dad's. And I was just squeezing with all my might. And finally, he pulled his hand away, and he goes, "All right, not bad." And I thought, holy shit. And that's when he told me. He said, "Now that you got a grip like that, did I ever... I arm wrestled everybody when I was a kid. When I finally got to the point where my grip was that strong, he said, "Listen, you're going to meet a couple different kinds of people, men." He said, "You're going to get guys who give you the sort of the limp fish, like it's a dead fish they're putting in your hand." And he goes, "Man, those guys, just be careful. Watch out for them, because they're not men. They're just not men." I said, "Okay." And he goes, "And then you'll get guys who give you a nice firm handshake, look you in the eye, nice to meet you, that kind of thing." And he goes, "Those are the guys that are usually pretty solid, give you a good handshake, look you in the eye, nice guys." And he goes, "And then they're the guys who want to prove how tough they are, how strong they are. And when you shake their hand, they're going to try to squeeze your hand as hard as they can. And they're used to like literally hurting everybody whose hand they shake." I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Now for those guys, what I want you to do is I want you to just stay calm, smile at them, squeeze their hand as hard as you possibly can until you can actually feel their knuckles moving against each other. And then as you're shaking their hand and squeezing it, trying as hard as you can to break their fingers, introduce them to everybody in the room. By the way, have you met my friend so-and-so? And that's my buddy Doc over there." And you just keep squeezing their hand as hard as you can. Give it about a full minute and then let go of their hand. They'll know who they are. I was like, "Oh yeah, all right." And I've actually met people like that. You put your hand out and they just grab it and they squeeze it as hard as they can. It's like, oh boy, you want to measure dicks already, huh? Okay, well, let's do that. And then you just, you squeeze hard. And usually they don't say anything, but every once in a while you'll get a guy who's actually cool. And when you let go, he'll go, "God damn, you got a hell of a grip, man." And, at that point, it's basically he's admitting that, yeah, I'm that asshole who tries to squeeze everybody's hand to be, alpha control male guy, and that didn't work with you. All right, let's move on. So Trump doesn't do handshakes. He mugs people. That's his whole thing, is I'm a big guy, and I'm going to grab your hand, and I'm going to yank you off balance and make you look like a bitch when I pull you towards me. And it's like, there are better ways to establish statecraft than trying to jerk a guy off his feet. Although I will say this, I was absolutely, there was smoke coming out of my ears this morning as I'm watching, I don't know, whatever news it was on line. And it showed Emmanuel Macron sitting next to the guy who is the president of Syria. And they're walking together in one scene, and I thought to myself, Emmanuel Macron is married to a boy who's like 30 years older than him, who started grooming him when he was 14 years old. And so he was probably hitting his knees with his now husband at the age of 14 or 15. He's now walking next to a man who I have a picture of that I keep right here in my computer, of him smiling and holding up two heads. Two men that he has decapitated himself. For whatever reason, they were part of a different alliance, or they were rebellious or whatever. But he has literally beheaded them and is now holding them by the hair and holding their heads up, and he has a big smile on his face. That's the guy who's now no longer the head of ISIS. He's now the president of Syria. Well, the president of Syria did that. The funny part is, Israel's trying to annihilate all the Christians and all the Muslims in southern Lebanon, trying to destroy southern Lebanon and level it. But they've left Syria alone, haven't they? It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, because ISIS was supposed to be the most radical, the most foaming at the mouth, Shia-based religious sect of all that was going to go in, and anybody who wasn't as radical as they were and their form of Islam. And then all of a sudden, they get right up next to Israel, and, well, they're palsy-walsies. They're buddies. So, So could it be that radical Islam is as full of shit as Netanyahu, and that the two of them actually made a deal together? Because that's sure what it looks like. Thomas Massie is one of the few patriots left in Congress. He's one of the few people in government that you can trust. Period. End of story. Anyone who tried to cover up Epstein, anybody who takes money from Israel, cannot be trusted. Israel, absolutely, 100%, no question about it, hates Christianity. Period. That is a provable fact. There is absolutely zero question how Judaism feels about Christianity and about Christ personally. They are absolutely disgusted by him, and they are more than happy to talk about it. They are more than happy to tell you exactly how they feel. What's happening, Yoda? Yeah, I mean, look, they're open about it. That's the crazy part. They're not hiding it. They're not lying. Are the Israelis lying to us about how they feel about Christ? No. They either don't answer the question directly and they just beat around the bush a little bit, or if they are ultra-Orthodox, Haredi Jews with the funny hats, the big funky hats and the curls and only wearing black and all that stuff, they don't fuck around. They tell you straight up. Yeah. Christ burning in a lake of excrement and semen. What? Like, what? Yeah. That's exactly what the Talmud says. So they clearly don't like him. No, it's not that they don't like him. They hate him. They absolutely hate Christ. You can't be more anti-Christ than that. It's impossible. Oh, hell, if I had to choose, I'd rather be a Sikh. I mean, look, the Sikhs have all kinds of different religions mixed in. And it's like, okay, little bit of Hinduism, a little bit of Taoism, a little bit of Islam. They got all kinds of shit going on. But the one thing I will say about them is that they believe that in order to be a good person, you must do good things. Not for Sikhs, for anyone. Anyone who needs your help. You must help them. It's kind of like Zoroastrianism. In a way, and if I'm not mistaken, they probably incorporate some of that too, which is that good thoughts lead to good words, and that good words eventually lead to good deeds. If you talk enough about doing something, you will end up doing it. And then, of course, good deeds end up giving you a good life. So that's pretty awesome. Like, that's pretty simple. And of course, Zoroastrianism is something that, it goes back to light versus darkness, good versus evil. It's the first monotheistic religion. It's the first religion in the world that said there is a God, just one, not a whole bunch of them running around trying to, give each other noogies. It's just one. What is the saying of Zoroastrian? Okay. Oh, I didn't even have to finish my sentence. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Pretty simple. Like, damn. The faith was founded by the prophet Zarathustra, or Zoroaster. Focuses on free will and moral responsibility rather than complex dogmas. Happiness comes to them who bring happiness to others. One good deed is worth 1,000 prayers. Damn, that's hard to argue with. When we are in doubt whether an action is good or bad, abstain from it. I don't know, man. I'm saying that I think these guys might be onto something. The fact that the farther back you go, it seems like the simpler, the more straightforward a lot of these religions are. It's very interesting. The idea of worshiping the sun because it's God's son, S-U-N. Interesting. Huh. Uh-huh. So they're not specifically anti-homosexuality. Some sects of it are more conservative than others, but obviously they said in Iran and India they're more conservative. Let's see, gods. What gods? Oh no, gods as in possessive. G-O-D apostrophe S, God's son. That's funny. Religions are all created by mankind. God had nothing to do with it. Well, Brian, you're one arrogant son of a bitch, aren't you? You literally think that you are completely independent of God. God don't tell me shit. I do what I want. I make up a religion if I want to. Got nothing to do with God. Really? Who made you? Well, yeah, God made me. Who put that thought in your head? Well, that was my own damn thought. Oh, really? So something exists outside of God. So God's not God. Uh-oh. Man, they hit me with a restriction quick. That was harsh. All right. Brian, go back to sleep. Everything's fine. Religions, yeah, everything you said is right. That isn't what he said. Yeah, he said religions are created by man. Ada, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm with you, babe. MAGA is the best religion. There is no MAGA. It's MEGA. Make Israel great again. Would you be impressed if Donnie managed to become Pope? Considering that he wouldn't touch the Bible when he was sworn into office, that'd be a hell of a trick. Because the thing is, if you think the Bible's just a bunch of crap, bunch of hoodoo, voodoo bullshit, you just put your hand on it anyway, just to keep the masses quiet, just to keep all the idiot Christians from getting upset, right? You just, all right, look, my hand's on the Bible, idiots. But he didn't touch it. It's like, what? Why wouldn't you touch it? Because he believes in it. Okay, well, if you believe in it, why wouldn't you put your hand on it? Because you know you're lying. You don't want to put your hand on the holy book if you know you're about to say something that's not true. Trump is religions. Isn't religious. Oh, hell no. I'll never be retired. There's no way. I'm never going to retire. Once you retire, you're done. Yeah, if you guys would you swear on the Quran? No. Why would I swear on the Quran? I don't believe the Quran's real. I would just ignore it. Of course, how could I end up swearing on the Quran? I live in a Christian nation. Isn't it a sin to swear on the Bible? No, I think you're talking about swearing at the Bible. Wait. Yeah, right. The tariffs, those are gone. The tax cuts, not so much. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm never going to retire. What's the point? What are you going to do? You know? Well, that's good. That means you got a mind of your own. And in this world, you better have a mind of your own, you know? Because it's that old saying, you know, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. It's so true nowadays. So, yeah, interestingly enough, I think that Trump does believe in the Bible, but he also, for some reason, absolutely refused to put his hand on it. That's really strange. That is really strange to me. And by the way, if you think I'm full of shit, go look. Just go look at the swearing-in ceremony. It happened inside. Well, thanks, Catherine. Yeah, if you look at what it says, it's crazy. George, what? Jesse James. Yeah, I'm sure that's your real name. Ben Franklin and others swore on the Royal Quran. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. My God, would you quit drinking NyQuil, bro? That's sad. Oh yeah, that's right. Gotta hit the mirror option. Boom, there we go. There, now you can see all my books in the background. By the way, if you haven't bought my book, just a little something for you to consider. There are 1 million people in the Northeast that don't have electricity tonight. Why? No reason at all. No fucking reason at all. Oh, except that the grid is extremely old. It's a piece of shit that was designed in the 30s, built in the 40s and 50s, and nobody's spent a dime on it. Why? Because private utility companies don't get paid to build things nice. They just get paid to keep it running for now. A political strategy, Jack? Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, explain. Oh, I'm going to stand in front of a nation that is 70% Christian, and when they swear me in, instead of putting my hand on the Bible that my wife is holding, I'm just going to put my hand down so that everybody can see that, no, I wouldn't touch that piece of shit. Yeah, that's really brilliant strategy. Whose power is out tonight? They were Shriners of the Masonic Order. Hmm. And you think that Masons actually take their oaths on a Quran? You are one sad little man. You know how I know? See the last name right there? Byron Grant. This is my grandfather's Masonic Bible. See how old and beat up it is? See how it's fallen apart? Because it's well over 100 years old now. Hmm. See how it says Holy Bible? It doesn't say child diddling instruction book, which is what the Quran should say. Was the reading? Oh man, don't even talk to me about that. Come on, seriously, was the reading like made 9 feet from? Yeah, it's. Look, the last I heard was 13, but it could be 9 by now. God, that's terrifying, man. Look, when that hits, woof. When we get to that point, what happens if Lake Mead drops another 15 feet? Yeah, you're right, 9 feet, because the other day it was 10 feet away. That was 3 days ago. And it's, I mean, right now it was 112 degrees today, so I'm sure it was hotter out there. It's probably dropping fast. This descent pushes the reservoir dangerously close to record lows. Yeah, whatever. Bullshit. I want the truth. Declining hydropower. Okay. Hydroelectric output would continue to be slashed, dropping well below its peak capacity and forcing power grids to purchase costlier energy from elsewhere to meet demand. Now, that I know is impossible. You can't do that. Where's my Masonic Bible? I don't get one. I have Masons that are willing to sponsor me, but I haven't become a Mason because I just haven't really had time. Raising 5 kids and trying to write books, etc. Maybe someday. I wouldn't mind. Wouldn't mind being a Mason. I know that there's all kinds of stupid theories about Masons nowadays and how they're in league with Lucifer and they're part of the whatever. It's dumb. When you look at the amount of people, the people that founded our country that were Masons, when you look at things like the Jeffersonian Bible, yeah. Now, here's the funny part, Steve. I've heard that 100,000 times. Now, my grandfather was a 32nd degree Mason. And obviously, I don't mind telling you, even though it's a secret society, since he said it himself, that one of my close friends, Randall Carlson, is a 32nd degree Mason. And one of the best guys I know. Absolutely one of the most honest, not only honest, but selfless. He has helped so many people get their careers and their lives going, ask nothing in return. Even when he does work for a living, doing construction and things like that, he does 10 times the work that he's paid for because it makes him feel good to do things that have value. That's the way he feels. And he was kind enough to tell me that he would be happy to sponsor me if I wanted to become a Mason. I've known a lot of Masons in my life, a lot of them in my family. I've never met one that wanted to be a congressman or a senator, that wanted to have power over people. That's it. Yeah, there are a couple of 33rd degree Masons, but not a lot. That's the whole point, is they're administrators. Well, it's a funny thing when when my buddy is a young black kid who I ran around with in Los Angeles, really good, nice guy. When he became a Mason, I didn't know about it at the time, but he asked me afterwards. He said, "So, you thought about becoming a Mason?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm chasing girls and drinking and trying to make billions and all that stuff. I don't know if I have time. I heard it's really time intensive." He explained to me, that it's not really that hard. But you have to be committed to it. And then he explained to me he had gone to Israel. This was 35 years ago. He'd gone to Israel, and while he was in Israel, he was in a Masonic temple and just visiting with some of his brothers and talking to him and whatnot. And he said this old man came in, and when the man came in, he stopped and he saw another guy across the room, and he started crying, and this other guy started crying as well. And they moved to the middle of the room and they hugged each other. This other guy was young, big, buff dude. And my friend said, "Hey, what is going on? It's like a family reunion or something." And he said, "No, actually, the old man, his son, was trying to attack a checkpoint, and the younger guy that he's hugging right now, he's in the IDF. He actually shot the other guy's son." I said, "Shot him?" He goes, "Yeah, killed him." I was like, when he told me this story, and I was like, "Wait, so the Israeli guy and the Palestinian guy were hugging each other?" And he goes, "Yeah. I mean, they, the old man knew, like, look, you did what you had to do. My son was trying to kill you, and you killed him." I was like, "Yeah, but one's a Muslim and one's a Jew." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, not so much. They're Masons." And I thought, whoa, wait a minute. The Masonic order is more important to some guys than their religion? Wow. Like, that's a real brotherhood. That's interesting. And I thought, wow, okay, maybe I should look into this a little bit more. So, needless to say, all the people I've ever met that were Masons seemed like really down to earth. The best way I could describe it, and of course, their saying isn't "we make people perfect." Their saying actually is, "We can't make a bad man good, but we can make a good man better." That's what I was told 45 years ago by a Mason. And I thought, okay, well, that's a pretty cool saying, really, So, anyway, Thomas Jefferson, obviously a Mason as well, he took the Bible, the New Testament, the King James Version, and he used a razor and he cut out all of the miracles: walking on water, the feeding 5,000 with a couple of fish. He cut those things out. And then he had it reprinted. And the reason that he had it reprinted without the miracles was, his point was that he doesn't need magic to believe that Christ was the Son of God or that he was sent by God. What he needs to know is, what was the message? Because the message is the most important part of this. And that's unfortunately what a lot of people don't do. They don't separate the message from the messenger. So the messenger, the man, the being, becomes the focus of everything. Jesus is Lord. No, he actually said, "Don't fucking do that." Literally, those were words that came out of Christ's mouth. "Put no man before God, not even me." He literally told people, "Don't call me God." And what do? Especially in the South, just as dumb as a bag of hammers. "Oh, Jesus is king." No, he's not king. You're king, idiot. "Why would I be king?" "Because Jesus said so." What? Yeah, when he said, you'll do greater miracles than I. Why would the Son of God say that? It's an odd thing to say. Hey, I'm here. I'm all powerful. I speak for God. And, well, you'll never be as good as I am, but you'll do much better things than I can do. That message doesn't add up. That's something about that's wrong. So clearly, the fact that he said, you'll do greater miracles than I, means that the message, if you take the message to heart, then you can do greater miracles. Well, what does that mean? Miracles? Like what? Well, I mean, his message was actually pretty clear. It's pretty simple stuff. Like, you can't fuck this up unless you want to. That's the problem. Is that a lot of people talk about how difficult it is. And I suppose it could be difficult, but it's not hard as far as its simplicity. Love everyone. That's it. But certainly we don't have to love the Jews, right? I mean, why would we love the Jews? They hate us. We can love the Jews from a distance. I mean, look, if you've ever had anybody in your family who's self-destructive, alcoholic, drug addict, whatever, you can love them without letting them move into your house and steal all your silverware again for the fourth time, without taking your debit card while you're sleeping. You can love them and give them enough space that they can get their shit together or not. But at some point, you have to let go and just love them for who they are. That's it. Not for what they can do for you, not for what they won't do to you, Well, that's the thing, is most of the Bible is either written in parables, if you don't like what it says, or it's absolutely the word of God very specifically, and there's no room for interpretation if you like what it says. That's the beautiful part about American Christians. They're morally so flexible that they could literally kiss the back of their own heel at any point because, well, Jesus didn't really mean that. That's what he said. He didn't mean it. Oh, so he isn't actually speaking for God. Well, when he means what he's saying, yeah, but I mean, when it's hard, no, that he wouldn't make us do hard stuff. Okay, sure. Whatever makes you fucking feel better at night, Well, but, I mean, he said love thy neighbor, but he didn't mean like my neighbor, like the guy next door, he's a dick. Yeah, he actually meant your neighbor. He meant everybody. Anybody that's near you is your neighbor. Oh, well, he didn't actually mean like love them like the way that I love my family. Yeah, he did. How? Well, that's what you need to figure out. That's the thing that if we ever figured out as a group, we would conquer the world almost instantaneously. Because there comes a point, and Gandhi would know this, there comes a point where love and compassion will completely and utterly overwhelm ignorance and violence. But not right away. The first thing that happens when somebody is loving and compassionate and caring, evil people think that you're stupid and they take advantage of it. That's it. They take advantage of it. You're just a moron. You're just naive. But then, if you continue down that path of, no, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep treating you this way. I'm going to keep treating you with kindness and dignity no matter what. At some point, they take a step back and you can actually see it in their eyes. They take a step back and it's like, all right, this fucker's hard. Like, hard. Well, what do you mean hard? Like, you're being kind and loving. Yeah, you're being kind and loving and tough as hell. It's a lot easier to just give in to the anger and the violence or the sadness or whatever. That's what people do almost instantly when they get hit with adversity. The hard thing to do, the hardest thing to do, is to continue to just keep on going. Love, kindness. Love, kindness. Can I be of service? Can I help? What can I do for you? Eventually, that just completely overwhelms anybody, even the assholes among us. But not right away. And it's really difficult to do. No, turn the other cheek. Okay, I'll turn the other cheek. Oh, happened again. Well, I'm out of fucking cheeks. That's it. Only got 2 up here. I'm not giving them my others. So that's that. There you go. And that's the hard part. The hard part is look, the easy thing is this. You do something kind, and somebody who you thought maybe wasn't so nice recognizes what you did, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, they're the nicest person in the world. Yeah, okay, well, that was easy. That was simple. That was nice. But what about the person who continually keeps coming back to you and saying, yeah, that was great, but this is what I want now. I had a client that was the biggest pain in my ass. My God, he used to call me complaining all the time. And I just, not only did I give him the best prices on ATM machines, and not only did I help him service the machines, which I had no business doing. He didn't have a service contract with me. He was supposed to do himself. But he would tell me that he had so much going on, but whatever, okay. And the guy was just super uptight. His name was Tony. Tony was just such an uptight pain in the ass. And he would call me constantly with issues. And I'll never forget, I got a really great contract, just a kick-ass contract for an ATM machine. And I called him up and I said, hey, man, I'll let you have this for whatever the price was. It was half of what I could have sold it for. And I got off the phone, and my now ex-wife turned and looked at me and she goes, what the hell? What was that, Tony? And I said, yeah. And she goes, that was the Tony that you don't like, right? I just got a restriction for bullying and harassment. Wow, that's weird, right? Okay. So I said, yeah, that's Tony. She goes, well, why would you give Tony your best contract? And why would you give him such a good price? He's a real pain in the ass. And I said, yeah, that's one of the reasons. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, look, it's really easy to be nice to people who are nice to you. Like, I have clients that never complain. They're just perfect. Buy me a cup of coffee, we shoot the shit for a little bit. Everything's great. It's, I personally actually really like them. She goes, yeah. And I said, so it's easy for me to do stuff for them. Like, it just comes naturally to me. She goes, yeah. And I said, but Tony's a pain in the ass. And she goes, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. She turned around, walked away, and I thought, okay. But the reason that I went out of my way for Tony is because it was an exercise for myself. And that is, being kind to people that are kind to you is easy. Doing nice things for your friends, that's easy. You can't say that you're a good person because you do good things for good people who do good things back. You're just doing what's normal. But when you got a real pain in the ass like that, and you go out of your way to make sure that they're okay, that they're doing fine, etc., it just hits differently. When in those times where you wonder, You know, am I who I think I am, or am I bullshitting myself? If you have enough instances like that where you can say, no, no, I'm doing the right thing. You know, when in doubt, I do the right thing. Okay, well, now if there's any reason to doubt yourself, you can go to bed and let your head hit the pillow and feel good. Yeah, hey, we all need reminders sometimes. I only need them about twice as much as the average, but it never hurts. And it's funny because I remember it used to be it used to be uh, just something that we did, especially men. And I don't know about women. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. I'm not a woman. I don't know how they think or how they communicate. It's a whole different species. But men would hold each other to account big time. I mean, if you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing, one if not all of your friends would put it in your face. And that's just, that's what you do when you care about somebody. You don't give them space to realize their whatever bullshit. If you see somebody that is doing something that they shouldn't be doing and it's wrong, you're not a friend if you don't get in their face and go, hey man, you realize that you're doing this, right? Like, you know this. And if they say no, tell them, okay, well, this is what I see. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that, um, I don't know. It's a weird thing with Elvis. He went to the FBI and told Nixon that because he was as famous as he was, he could infiltrate a lot of like drug rings and things like that most people would never be able to get into. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. I mean, it's just one of those things that kind of slipped through the cracks. But yeah, he when he met with Nixon, that was part of what they talked about in the White House. That's part of the public record. He actually wanted to fight drugs. Now, did his doctors give him something that he shouldn't have had? I don't know. That's hard to say. His dad died at 50. I think his grandfather died at like 48 or something. I mean, yeah, Nixon. I think Nixon actually gave him like a law enforcement badge that he was super proud of. That was it. That was during his time when he was taking karate. Yeah, it was pretty funny. He got a black belt from the same instructor that I went to, and nobody ever asked about that. Like, how did Elvis become a black belt in 3 years when it takes the rest of us 15? He's Elvis. That's how. And that was just, yeah, Larry Parker's a serious badass dude. I think he's dead now, but this was 30 years ago. And yeah, Larry Parker was the first person that I ever took karate from. That was pretty cool. He taught Kenpo, which means fist. And the reason that you do this when you walk into a dojo, you put this hand over this hand, is because this is the fist that you fight with. This shows that you are not here to fight. That's why you put your hand over your fist. That is to show respect. That's why you always bow and you never wear your shoes. So just in case you ever go into a dojo, even if you're not one of the guys that studies there or whatever, just kicking your shoes off and bowing, that's a nice sign of respect. By the way, that's the funny part about people who come to this country and they're like, nah, I'm not going to live by your traditions or honor your shit. It's like, dude, if I walk into a dojo, which is in my country, I still honor their traditions. It's like, have a little respect. If you want to take something from their culture, in this case, Kenpo karate, if you want to take something from their culture, give something back, and that would be respect. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Islam is the true path. Can't even finish that statement. It's so dumb. Anyway, you guys know where I was going with that. Hey, books are going out. Some went out today. The book that you probably wish you had if you lived somewhere in like Pennsylvania or let's see, part of New York, part of New Jersey, part of Ohio. Yeah, there's a million people without power tonight. Why? No particular reason. Just because it got hot and the grid can't handle it. But it'll be so much better next year after they invest exactly pinga. Pinga means dick in Spanish, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So I'm bilingual, but only when it comes to cussing and getting kicked out of bars. So this, by the way, is the book. Now, is it full of useful information that you'll never need? No. But, and by the way, there's I left some space in the back for you to make notes so that while you're going through here, you can write in here, yeah, I got this on this date, or whatever. For me, this would be more important than that, because this is not for the one thing that's in here is what you need to do and think. What's not in here is the very specific part of where you live. So if you live in Manhattan, you're not leaving. Can you buy it in bulk? Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the book prices. I looked at all the things that, like everybody else's prices. And quite frankly, I was shocked. I was really not very happy about the prices that these idiots are charging. $50, $40. And it's like, oh, but it's not just the book. It's also another book about how to use Morse code. What? Really? Morse code? No, thanks, but no thanks. By the way, I will set up a store. Yeah, I'm going to set up a store so that you can just click on whatever's in the store that I set up so that you can buy all of the things that are in here. Although, let's be honest, if you can find a better place to buy rice, buy it. I will say that the rice that I saw the other day, I went to what was it called? Food Barn? No. Shit. I didn't buy anything, so I don't think I've got a. Oh, Food City. Food City. Buy with silver? Sure. Absolutely. You know me, I love silver. If silver was a girl, I'd marry it. So Food City had 20 pounds of, hang on, Mahatma. I had to check because I knew I had some sitting here on the floor, a 20-pound bag that's exactly the same brand. It's Mahatma rice, and it's 20 pounds. Now, it's not ideal because it's enriched, and enriched means that the fucking government sprayed it with niacin, a chemical acid that we don't need in our food, but they sprayed it on there anyway, just in case you're a pregnant woman. So, the price was $12.99. $12.99. I remember clearly buying 20 pounds at Food City 5 years ago for $11.99. A 20-pound bag's gone up by $1? Holy shit, this got to be like the only thing in the United States that we're not getting screwed on. Our 20-pound bags of rice. Like, what? That's amazing. The one that I got, Supreme, long grain, gluten-free, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, it does not say on the 25-pound bag of Supreme rice, which I bought I want to say at Walmart. It doesn't have, oh, I'm sorry, not niacin, folic acid. Folic acid. That 25-pound bag, I want to say was $10. $10 for a 25-pound bag of white long grain rice, not enriched with folic acid. And by the way, for those of you who know, you know, folic acid is something putting in or taking in their prenatal years, because we were told that if a woman's levels drop too low, it could harm the baby in the first couple of trimesters. As it turns out, women given folic acid may actually have a much higher instance of miscarriage. And there are no apparent health benefits to folic acid. None. Now, that's the chemical folic acid that's sprayed on things. Actual folic acid that you get in things like leafy greens, yes, that actually helps. But what they're spraying on our crops, what they put in all bread, that actually not only does it not help pregnant women, but on top of that, since they started putting it in all of our food, the amount of colorectal cancer in men has skyrocketed. So they're spraying our crops. They're spraying all of our wheat, all of our grains with a chemical that actually does not help if you're a pregnant woman, but theoretically only helped if you were a pregnant woman, and was never tested on men whatsoever to find out what, if any, health benefits there were to men. And as it turns out, that much folic acid appears to give men skyrocketing amounts of colorectal cancer, like what Black Panther died of, or 100 other people that I've heard of in the last 10 years. What happened? All of a sudden, this explosion? Well, yeah, I believe it was 79 or 80. Let's check. When did the government mandate folic acid? Oh, 96. Okay. And it was implemented in 1998. The U.S. government authorized the mandatory fortification of enriched cereal grains with folic acid to help reduce the neural tube birth defects like spina bifida in newborn infants. Now, I can tell you for a fact that I will not get pregnant and I will not have a child that has spina bifida. But I have to have it all over my food anyway, whether it's cereal or whether it's bread, my spaghetti noodles, everything is enriched. Enriched. Think about that for a second. They make us put this on everything, even if you're not a woman and you're not pregnant. Oh, look at that. Review the health differences between folate and synthetic folic acid. That is scary. Now, let's see. Yeah, okay. Folate, natural. Found naturally in foods like leafy greens, citrus, and beef liver. Folic acid, synthetic. Formulated in labs for high stability in supplements and grains. Okay. Oh, well, there's one I didn't know. B12 masking. Excessive folic acid can hide a vitamin B12 deficiency until nerve damage occurs. High levels of unmetabolized synthetic folic acid may temporarily weaken immune cells. Well, shit, that's the perfect thing to feed the entire country before you roll out a pandemic. And then, by the way, just in case the pandemic's not strong enough, let's say it's some sissy shit that really wouldn't kill anybody unless they were vitamin D deficient, like 85% of the people that were hospitalized. So then what you do is you tell people don't go outside, stay in your homes, stay inside. Stay inside and eat this folic acid. What could possibly go wrong? It's almost like they're trying to get rid of some of us, you know? They're testing us. Like, okay, here, eat the folic acid. It looks like he's okay. All right, give him this virus. Oh no, don't go outside. Stay inside. Son of a bitch, he still lived. Okay. Wow. Hello. Um, let's see. By the way, the thing about Lake Mead, they never answered it. Let's see if I can corner it and ask it a question it can't beat around the bush on. How many feet lower does Lake Mead have to go before the dam fails to generate any electricity? Okay. Well, they, of course, right. Yeah, it gives you vitamin D for free. I was lucky when COVID hit. I was drinking a gallon of whole milk a day, and and on top of that, I spent a lot of time out in my backyard because I had a big, huge ass backyard, an acre, in the middle of the city, which is very unusual, but it's a big backyard. So I was out there, racing around on the dirt bikes and go karts and all that shit. So we got lots of sun, and like I said, I drank a gallon of whole milk every day. It's a lot of vitamin D, which is why when everybody got sick and it just knocked everybody on their ass for 10 days, I was like, are you guys sure this is COVID? And they were like, yeah, we all got tested. We all have it. And you're sick. And I was like, yeah, but I'm sick. Like, I could feel it. But this is what I was worried would kill me. This is what they said would kill me if I was over 50. It's like, okay, I smell bullshit here. I've had hangovers a lot worse than COVID. Okay, so two answers. Number one, 950 feet. Number two, 1,035 feet. That's considered the critical threshold. 12 of the dam's 17 massive turbines must be shut down. Woo, leading to a 70 to 80% drop in power. At the current rate of evaporation, when does Lake Mead reach 1,000 feet? Yeah, what? It sits at, hold on. They're saying that, okay. Holy shit. They said that at 1,035 feet, the shit really hits the fan. 80% of the power generation goes away. The lake sits at 1,043 feet right now. Wow. That's, and a 30-foot decline is projected over the next 2 years. Wow. Well, guys, yeah, at this point, no shit, I would say, yeah, you definitely want to go to the link above there, right there. Go to that link right there and pick this up. Not expensive. I made it so that there's once we factor in shipping, etc., there's damn near no profit in it whatsoever. But that's okay because it's something that everybody needs to have a copy of. And if I sell 200,000 copies of it, then yeah, I'll make enough that I can pay my rent for a couple months. So that's great. But it's going to be I didn't make it so that I could find out how many yachts I could ski behind at once. Mm-mm. I made it because this 80% of Hoover Dam, that's, you have to understand something. Marian Adelson owns Donald Trump outright. She put $200 million into his campaign. Her husband said that the only thing he regretted before he died, after becoming a multi-billionaire, was that he had served in the United States Army instead of serving in the IDF. Yes, they're Jewish. And yes, they're Israeli citizens too. If you think for one moment that a woman who owns basically all of Las Vegas, like all the publications, the news, media, everything, and several of the major hotels and casinos, if you think that she's just going to allow Las Vegas to dry up and blow away, you're out of your mind. She's going to pull every string she has. They're going to start pulling enormous amounts of electricity from other places. We don't have a grid that can do that. If you fuck up the Western Interconnect, that is all of the Western United States. If you start overloading that interconnect, everything goes down from Los Angeles all the way to Pocatello and everything in between. Washington State, you name it. It's all part of the Western Interconnect. And once you start tripping those breakers and you start blowing up massive transistors, because like these transformers are not designed to be overloaded. They will be overloaded. This is amazing. This is, unfortunately, I wasn't even aware of this when I wrote the book. Otherwise, I probably would have finished the book a couple months earlier. I can tell you this, I will be dumping my life savings into advertising this book starting tomorrow morning. I will be advertising this book everywhere I can possibly think of and praying to God that people take it seriously. Because, look, there's no reason for 1 million people to be without power right now in the Northeast. None. Nothing went wrong. It just got hot. It just got hot. That's it. That's it. Do you know what the temperatures are supposed to be in Dallas all the way up through Oklahoma in the middle of next week. 125 degrees. The forecasters are literally shitting themselves. They've never seen anything like this before. They expect it to be 108 degrees in Helena, Montana next week. They also expect it to be 117 in Idaho. Never seen anything like it. Never. But I can tell you this, it's only going to be 107, 108 here. It's normal for us, in Phoenix. But if you try to draw a couple gigawatts away from us to send over to Las Vegas, nope, won't work. Good. You need to, man. This is absolutely nuts. This is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. Well, there's an ancient Chinese curse. Well, you can't have brownouts. You can't have brownouts in Phoenix, Arizona. Think about this. Because the number is hard for people to believe, so I'll just go to Google and I'll ask, because most people will not understand this number. What is the total number of people who may have died from the heat wave in Europe? Yeah, that's exactly what I'd heard. Over 20,000 people so far. That's so far. I'm in Arizona. I am right in the belly of the beast, man. It was 112 degrees outside today. It was hot as hell outside, literally. Out running around today, and I remember thinking to myself, man, people in Europe, they can't survive this. Most people in Phoenix couldn't survive this heat either. They would never survive this heat. But everything we have is air conditioned. Well, when everything we have is air conditioned and it hits 112, all of a sudden we are literally at, I want to say, is it 18 gigawatts? When the temperature in Phoenix hits 120, how much electricity does the city use? You're not gonna believe this shit. Yep. That's what I thought. Over 17,000 megawatts at once. When temperatures in Phoenix reach near record highs of 118 to 120, the city's power grid hits peak demand. The valley's two main electric utilities, Arizona Public Service, APS, and the Salt River Project, SRP, routinely combine to deliver over 17,000 megawatts of electricity at once. Now, just to put that in perspective, the absolute top, the most electricity that can possibly be generated in Phoenix is 19 megawatts. 19,000 megawatts. So we're 2,000 megawatts away. So 1 megawatt's enough for about 200 houses. No data centers. none, but about 200 houses. So when you look at this and you go, wait a minute, so a couple thousand megawatts is 20,000 houses. I mean, look, the solar flare is a concern for everybody in the world. Stupidity is a concern for the United States. They do have some solar fields out west and north of Phoenix. No, you can't charge your electric cars. The most important thing to understand about this though is 2,000 megawatts. That's nothing. You're going to try and take 2,000 megawatts away from us to send to Vegas? That's nothing. Well, who's the closest city to Vegas? We are. So you're going to send it from LA? LA doesn't have a lot of extra electricity. Okay, so where are you going to send it from? Great question. Where would you send it from? One of the, San Onofre nuclear power plant? Oh, that's right. They were decommissioning it. And then they decided to start it up again. That'll take years. Maybe Diablo Canyon nuclear power. Oh, shit, that's right. That was decommissioned too. But they're going to start that one back up as well. Yes, if the Gulf Stream collapses, then Europe will be extremely cold. However, as they say, if my aunt had balls, she would be my uncle. So until that happens, which could be 10 years, I mean, there are a lot of people there are a lot of people in the climatology business that are beginning to look at 1,000-year cycles instead of just, how long their nose is. And they're actually starting to look a little bit farther down the road, and they're realizing that, we have grand solar minimums all the time where the sun just basically takes a nap for 30, 50, 100 years. And it just goes into this sort of cruise mode where it doesn't put out a lot of solar flares or a lot of heat, a lot of energy. It just kind of cruises along, snoozing. And then it wakes back up and we get solar flares and pops and sneezes and whatnot, and cool. But during that time when it's not really putting out a lot, things like, the Thames River that runs through London freezes hard as a rock. Yeah. Everything in the northern latitudes completely freezes over. We had one. When was the last grand solar minimum? I believe it was the Maunder minimum. Yeah, the Maunder minimum. From 1645 to 1715. So what do you got there? 65, 55, 65, 70 years. 70. Oh, that's the next sentence. During a 70-year period, they called it the Little Ice Age. Let's see. For context, a few smaller minimums, like the Dalton minimum, 1790 to 1830, occurred later, but the Maunder minimum is universally classified as the most recent true grand minimum. Solar scientists continually monitor for new ones. I'm sorry. New ones? I thought the Earth was going to be so hot that polar bears were going to have to shave their tits and start wearing bikinis and living on life rafts because there wouldn't be any ice at the North Pole by the year 2016. Oh, I don't know. Whenever it comes to infrastructure bills, They're all the same. It's like the housing bill. Oh, housing bill for what? Oh, to make housing more affordable. Oh, is that really what it's for? No. What do you mean, no? No, it's actually part of it is a total betrayal of what Trump promised us when he said there would never be a central bank digital currency. Central bank digital currency, like you mean like they have in China? Huh? Where they can cut you off if they don't like your social fucking credit score? Uh-huh. Where they actually have a social credit score. Uh-huh. So if you make nice posts about the government online, they recognize that and they give you more money to live on. Uh-huh. And if you say something that they don't like, they can freeze your account. Uh-huh. And your medical insurance. Yep. They can shut your goddamn car off. Yeah. Oh, definitely. They can do that. They can make it so that you can't board a fucking train. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, it goes on your permanent record so that you will never be hired again. All of a sudden, Palantir sounds a little fucking scarier now. So do these data centers. However, the good news is a grand solar minimum would basically destroy all of that. What year will the next solar minimum will be the next solar minimum? I got to click this button, guys. The next minimum is projected to occur around 2030, marking the end of the current solar. Minimum. Okay, not grand solar minimum. Let's ask. When do scientists believe the next grand solar minimum will occur? Give us a date. What's going on with silver? It's probably right where it was yesterday. It's not doing much, which is good. Because with all the crazy uncertainty, if it's not dropping, that means that we have hit the floor. 56 to 60 that's it. It's not going any lower. So if you were ever going to buy silver, now is the time to buy silver. Because when the shit hits the fan with all of the stuff I'm talking about, I mean, they're going to print a lot more money. Because the only two ways that you pay off your debt are, number one, you borrow it on bonds and you spend your kids' money, which is what the boomers did to my generation. Or B, you create so much more currency that inflation means it's not a big deal. Yeah, deficit's 40 trillion. So what? Well, how much money's in circulation? 200 trillion. Oh, so the debt's nothing. It's a little piece of the pie, no big deal. That's what you have to do to make the deficit seem small. The problem is, will everyone go along with you and still accept your currency if you inflate the amount of currency by 600%? Don't know. 61.20. Okay. So it hit 59 and bounced right back up. They're trying to suppress it, but it's not working. It's bouncing back every time now. So love that. Let's see. What about the grand solar minimum? The last clearly recognized grand solar minimum was the Maunder minimum, which lasted from 1640 to 1715. Okay. There is no scientific consensus that a next grand solar minimum is imminent or scheduled to occur anytime soon. You know, it would be fun. Let's ask the Goog. Looking back over the last few thousand years, how often does a grand solar minimum occur? Without looking, I'm going to say 412 years. over the last few thousand years, a grand solar minimum has occurred roughly every 350 to 400 years. However, researchers note that they sometimes cluster together over 2 to 3,000 year periods, causing the sun to spend about 1/6 of its time in this state of prolonged low activity. We call that snooze-o-rama. Well, you know, Tom, it's a funny thing that you say that because, yeah, we're fucking overdue, aren't we? So we got two things going for us. We get a massive solar flare every 100 to 150 years. The last one was like 180 years ago. And then we also get a huge fucking grand solar minimum every 350 to 400 years. And guess what? 1715 to 2015 would have been 300 years. So we are coming up on when we're due. And did solar cycle 25, did it disappoint? Oh yeah, it was a lot less violent than solar cycle 24. There have been at least 25 of these events over the last 9,000 years. Well, I'll be a monkey's freaking uncle. Hey, if we use them dollars, baby, I'm rich. I got like $50 billion sitting right on my desk. Oh, let's see. 1745 or 1645 to 1715. It coincided with the coldest phase of the Little Ice Age in the Northern Hemisphere. Really, do tell. And what exactly was the Little Ice Age? Just in case, because, you know, I know that the whole world is going to be set on fire by fireballs from Zeus's anus or something, according to the doom and gloomers. But the Maunder minimum, let's see. Let's go, okay. Then they had the Sporer minimum, yeah. The Sporer minimum was in the like 14 to 1500s. Let's see. The Maunder minimum coincided with the coldest part of the Little Ice Age in the Northern Hemisphere. When the Thames River in England froze over during the winter, Viking settlers abandoned Greenland. That makes sense. And Norwegian farmers demanded that the Danish king recompense them for lands occupied by advancing glaciers. The physical mechanisms that explain how the drastic change in solar activities affect Earth's climate is unknown. What? The physical mechanism that explains how a drastic change in solar activity affects Earth's climate is unknown. This is Encyclopedia Britannica that I'm reading from. We don't know how the mechanism of the sun going to sleep for 70 years could affect the climate of Earth. What? That absolute. Oh, I get it. I get it. Yeah. If you actually admitted that, yeah, the solar activity has a direct effect on the temperature of Earth and our climate changes, then you literally just blew man-made global warming out of the fucking water. You literally just destroyed the last 50 years of total fucking gaslighting bullshit, where the governments of the world tried to convince us that cow farts and Chevy Suburbans were actually the cause, and that it's your fault, and if you don't pay trillions of dollars to fix it, we're all going to die. But nobody could have known it was the sun. We didn't know that back then, really. Well, what causes grand solar minimums? Well, we don't know what the mechanism is. Oh, okay, so a grand solar minimum is what? Well, it's when the sun goes to sleep. Oh, really? And what happens here on Earth? Well, it gets cold as fuck. You think they're related? Well, it's really hard to say because, it's a tough one, man. It's very tough. Oh, well, okay. Then conversely, what were the solar cycles like? Oh, I don't know, in like the mid 20th century. Well, it's funny you should bring that up. It's really funny because do you want to talk about a crazy coincidence? This is so weird, right? The sunspots actually increased. Now, I mean, we know that they're totally unrelated, but yeah, it was. So, oh, okay. So, what about if you look at, let's see, the Maunder minimum? What were the sunspots like? Well, virtually none. Okay, Dalton minimum, not a lot. Let's see, 1940 through 1980. Oh, hundreds and hundreds of them. Oh, so the sun was super active in the middle of the 20th century. And the Earth started to warm up. Yeah. Kinda. All right, I'm going to save this. You're not what? You're not going to let me save this? Of course you are. How dare you? Oh, nope, that's not it. That's really weird. Okay, I just want to... save image as. There we go. Boom. And let's just put that right on my desktop where I can see that beautiful thing every day. And then I can also put it on here. Talked about snow flurries in the end of the 18th century France. Yep, I'm on the list all right. Oh man, just having the Gadsden flag tattooed on my forearm put me on the list. I found out that dipshit that was in charge of the FBI under Biden, he actually had a list of things that if you put them like a bumper sticker, if your bumper sticker, had a Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, or if you had the Betsy Ross flag with 13 stars in a circle, if you had that flag as a bumper sticker, any of those things would put you on, literally, I'm not kidding, the potentially violent domestic terrorist watch list. If you had a flag from the Alamo, which I thought was ironic because what's his name from Texas, Cruz from Texas, actually has a patch on each one of his cowboy boots that is that flag. So he took his cowboy boot off and he put it up on the thing when he was interviewing the FBI director, dipshit, whatever his name was, and said, "So am I now on a terrorist watch list?" And of course the guy shrugged and said, "Well, I don't know about this watch list. I didn't approve of this, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, yeah, whatever. Who approved their information? I imagine the IDF, probably. They seem to be in charge of all other publishing. New strikes on Iran significantly stronger than earlier attacks. Okay, as the IRGC targets U.S. Navy warships. Well, that's always good news. Okay. And Goldman Sachs says, we haven't seen any panic on the desk yet. Let's see. Wow. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Wow, 19 heat-related deaths in New Jersey. Don't you guys have a shore in New Jersey, Jersey Shore? Or was that just a really horrendously bad TV show that glorified the worst Americans ever born in this country? Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard they sank 3 tankers, actually. And they are just bound and determined to keep sinking them. Bottom line is, their attitude is, hey, fuckers, you could say whatever you want about our peace talks, but we're not having those. We're not having peace talks. And the reason they're not having peace talks is because as long as Israel is going through and destroying people in Lebanon, Christians and Muslims, then Iran's saying, no, I'm standing up to them, which is really sad that Iran has to stand up for what I believe is right. How'd that happen? Like, how the fuck did we get here? Where Iran is defending people that I know need to be defended. Like, I don't know, Christians who live in Lebanon or the West Bank who are being terrorized by Israelis every day, beaten, terrified, thrown out of their houses. And Iran is going to stick up for them. That's how you know that the world is not firing on all cylinders. When the Shia Muslim government of Persia has to stand up for Lebanese Christians because the United States of America won't. How ironic, we just celebrated our freedom. 250 years. 7 of which we haven't been at war. That's pretty fucking awesome. Well, it is what it is. So at this point, what you can do, yeah, there should be. But you know what the problem with that is? The problem is that if you went rolling into Washington, D.C. with your guns blazing right now, you'd do it by yourself. Because all these fat, loudmouth rednecks that proclaim to be Christians, they're not. All these guys with their body armor and their level 3 plates and bullshit and, oh yeah, man, I was thinking about, we need a revolution. You going to? Yeah, if I didn't have this thing with my sciatica, boy, I'd be there with you, brother. Got it. So, how many people are in the United States? 340 million. How many of them actually joined the Army or the Marine Corps? How many of them decided that they wanted to become airborne or Rangers? Not a lot. Not a lot. Those are the only guys that have the capacity right now to do that. And they're not interested. They're not interested in a suicide pact in order to show that they're patriots. Okay. And then what? And then all of a sudden the rich fucking powers that be decide that, you know what? All right, we had to make a mess of those, 20,000 guys. That could have turned ugly. Let's dial back the price of beef and ice cream and a few other things. That's it. That's it. Let's make beer and bourbon half price for the next year, and we'll lean on the states to get rid of all of their tobacco taxes. Shit, man. Everybody in this country would be like, we want freedom. We want to wait, how much is beer? Hold that thought for a second. That's it, man. Oh, if taxes got stopped, it'd be fantastic. That'd be awesome. But, all it takes is a few people who are really, really gung-ho about not paying their taxes to have their front doors kicked in and to watch them get, goose stepped out of their house and into an armored car so that you can see that they're going to spend the rest of their life in a concrete box over 50 grand. You're like, no, I'll just pay the 50 grand. Yeah, that's where we're at. So once men start seeing their sons and daughters die of starvation, die of preventable illnesses because there's no health system left for anybody that's not wealthy. Once you start seeing that level of discomfort, then maybe you'll see something along those lines. But I think that Declaration of Independence, I think that this might probably be a pretty good indicator. All right, let's see here. It says, oh, come on, just give me the fucking verbiage, man. Okay. So the preamble is pretty simple and straightforward. We all know this, but just for the hell of it, I'm going to read some of this to you. When you get to the part where you go, oh, got it, that's where we're at now, you just go ahead and make a comment. Throw a comment in there when you go, yep, that's where we're at. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes. And according to all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they have become accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing inevitably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. Now, if you ask me, I say that we are at this place right about here that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they have become accustomed. That's where we're at now. How long a train of abuses? That's the question, because it says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Okay, so if you ask me, we are at the point where we understand that this sucks ass. This is bullshit. But the evils are still sufferable. Yeah, it sucks. I believe it's 19,400, but yeah, it's a lot. Let's find out. Over the weekend, I was shocked to find out that obviously when I told you guys that that there were 1,942 calls for December gold at 20 grand, and then I checked back live the night after and found out it was 11,000. I checked back again, and now it's 28,000 calls for December gold at 20,000. I mean, you're talking about $20 million. A kid with a wild hair up his ass doesn't invest $20 million in calls on gold when it's 4,000. And he's saying that in 5 months, it'll be 20,000. What could possibly make that happen? How many calls on December gold at 20,000 are there now? Okay, it's gone up more. There are currently over 30,000 open contracts for December 2026 gold call options at a $20,000 strike price on the COMEX. COMEX is the commodities exchange. This massive open interest representing millions of ounces of gold is largely tied to deep, out of the money institutional calls. Institutional calls, huh? Okay. Now, my guess is that when you don't even want the product, you want to leverage the product 10 to 1, 50 to 1, 100 to 1, that you are absolutely certain the product, whatever it is, wheat, pork bellies, gold, whatever the product is, you know that it's going to go up so much, so fast, that you'd be a fool to just own the product. Sure, you'll make 500, 700% on your money, whatever. But if you own these, you'll make 1,000% on your money. You will literally make 1,000% on your money. Is it risky? Insanely. It's insanely risky. So why would they do it? Why would they do it? My guess is somebody knows something. It went from 28,000 last week to 31,120 already. Let's do something crazy, because that's how I roll. How many open contracts are there on the COMEX for $300 silver in December? Okay, it gave me listings for Tesla Model S. Amount of contracts for December silver at 300. Okay. Oh, shit. How many call options are there on December silver at 300? What's the calls? Really? Don't want to give me that one, huh? That's weird. Oh, I'm gonna have to dig on this now because they're giving me all kinds of bullshit, but they're not answering that question. Huh. Oh, no shit. Wow. They don't even exist. That's why. They don't even exist. They won't even let you make that bet. They said it's too far out of the money. How many December call options for $150 are there on silver? Interesting. Well. It says here on the official COMEX exchange, there is only one listed $150 strike call option contract for December 2026 silver. Now, the odds of gold moving that much without taking silver with it at all, it's never happened. Never happened in 1,000 years. That's never happened. Gold and silver are linked together at the hip. Now, usually it's between 15 and 40 to 1. 40 ounces of silver will buy you 1 ounce of gold. At one point last year, it was 98 to 1, which is completely insane. But of course, like I said it would, it corrected. So will it go back to 30 or 40? Could, even if it stays where it is now. You're looking at 61 to 1, something like that. This will be very. All right, folks. Well, I've got something to do tonight other than wrap up any books that you guys bought while I was on here, because I know you did, right? Right? By the way, thank you for all the likes, because I figured something out finally after being on TikTok for, I don't know, half my life. Those likes, those little hearts, those little things right there That's what actually makes me money. I didn't know. When I got a heart, I was like, oh, that's nice. Somebody give me a heart. Well, I don't know what that means. But apparently these little suckers right here, which I guess are, I don't know, are they, you have to pay for them or something? I don't know. But apparently that equals money. Because the other night I made, it was huge. It was like $1.76 on one of my live streams. And I was like, I made almost $2 tonight. I'm going to fucking Disneyland. But then the next night I didn't make anything. And then the night after that I made like 20 cents. I was like, what? How does this work? That's when I saw it. I saw the link between the little golden hearts and the money. And I went, son of a bitch, that's interesting. Show anything on copper? Oh, I'm sure it does. But that's industrial, so there's going to be so much activity on copper that's going to take me a couple hours to figure out what's really going on with copper, because that's something that everybody needs for everything. Thank God it's cheap, because everybody needs it for, if you're going to build an alternator or a starter motor or, for anything, basically anything, making a house, whatever. So that is that's why copper is super volatile. We're going into the next year or two where I honestly could see that we might not build any houses in 2028. Like, we may get to a point where we don't build any houses at all. And a lot of the ones that begin getting built in late 2027 never get finished. That's how bad I believe it's going to be. Now, is that good? Eventually, it's always good. Eventually, going through those hard times always makes the economy strong again. But, nobody's looking forward to a depression. None of us are. So, whatever. We got to do what we got to do. They've led us down this path, and there's no way out of this. We just got to go forward, go through it. And obviously, I think that silver helps, take the edge off that. But on top of that, just in case they have some other weird, crazy alternative plan that has to do with no electricity and getting rid of some of us. And it's as crazy as it sounds, every time I turn around, I see something that is completely insane. It makes no sense to me. And it's like, why would that be? Why would you do that? Why would you plan this? Why would you think that? Why would you want this to happen if you're the government? And it always comes back to the same thing. They will never tell you the truth about something that they can't charge you for and then fix for you. If they can't charge you for it and fix it for you, they'll deny it. Even if you're looking right at it, they'll deny it. Governments, any government, not just our government, any government. You got to understand something. I'm not anti-American government. I'm anti-government, period. Now, can you exist without a government? No, you can't. This whole thing about, oh man, anarchy. Yeah, anarchy's bullshit. Look at how Somalia turned out. Whenever you get anarchy, you get warlords. Whenever you get warlords that fill a vacuum, they do it in the most horrendous, barbaric way. So you have to have a government. But you have to understand that when you have a government, you are setting up a fight that you can never, ever, ever win. But you can't afford to ever lose. You've got to just keep fighting. That's the only way to win the fight, is to never, ever stop. Because the moment you do, look at the United States. Boomers just kind of gave up. Back in the 90s, they went out and cashed out of their 401ks and bought motorhomes and big boats and, just sort of, snorted coke and fucked off. Laughed about those days back when they were hippies and they thought they could change the world. And now look at us. You know, we look back and it's like, wow, holy shit. I never thought that Bill Clinton would look moderate, but compared to what they're doing nowadays, yeah, he looks pretty moderate. You know, it's pretty fucking strange. So anyway, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. I'll be back and we'll do this again. Holy shit, I made 54 cents. That's it, guys. 54 cents. I'm going to retire. 54 cents. Woo! I'm going to buy me an ice cream.